Welcome back to OCD Illustrated, everybody, the channel hosted by me, Katie, that is all about learning about obsessive compulsive disorder. I've got another sample hierarchy video for you. If you don't recognize what a hierarchy is, I suggest you go look at my series on exposure and response prevention, and I have some videos specifically about hierarchies and how to use them to fight obsessive compulsive disorder. As you may remember, OCD has two parts. There are the obsessions, which are the unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images, or urges that pop into somebody's head repeatedly. And compulsions, which are the repetitive or ritualized mental or physical actions a person with OCD takes to temporarily relieve the distress caused by the obsessions. All right, so the obsession that I'm going to be using for this sample hierarchy is an emotional contamination obsession. Which I put into words as imagining this from a child's perspective. The kids in my school have cooties. And eventually we've got sort of the largest compulsion that this could lead to, which would be school refusal or refusing to go to school at all. A kid with this obsession might also try to cover all their exposed skin when going in places that their classmates might go. If they have siblings attending the same school, they may either avoid their siblings or do something like make the siblings change clothes when they get home from school to reduce the sort of the ephemeral, cootiness that could transfer on the siblings' clothes from school to home. The youth with OCD might insist on only going to stores or libraries or any other kind of location that's very far from home, in the thoughts that their classmates are more likely to go to stores that are close to home. So if they want to avoid their classmates, they should go to places very far from home. And the youth with OCD might avoid using social media so as to not see photos of classmates or interact with classmates online. Okay, if you've watched my other videos, that orange list of steps for creating a hierarchy looks familiar. If you haven't, I highly suggest you go watch my video that is focused on making a hierarchy so that this makes more sense. So the obsession I've picked is that the kids in my school have cooties, and I am going to list actions that would trigger that obsession. I've got my step 2 tips straight out of that other video. So you can think of times and places when somebody does compulsions, think of things that they avoid. Once a task is identified to go on a hierarchy, you can think of ways to make it easier or harder. Use scripting, which is thinking of things to write, say, listen to, or read that will trigger obsessions. And then be sure to include overcorrection exposures. Okay, let's get started listing items to go on a hierarchy. The person or the kid with OCD could touch their siblings' school clothes and books. Might even read a book from the school library, which would require, hanging on to the book for a longer amount of time, as opposed to just touching it with one finger. Remember back to one of the compulsions for this obsession, it was to avoid going to local stores because classmates might go there. So an easy exposure to put, or not an easy exposure, but an easy thing to think of to put on the hierarchy would be to have the child go to stores in their own town. To promote communication with classmates and physical contact with things from school, the youth could exchange letters with classmates. And they can add and communicate with classmates on social media. The student could go visit the school and walk around the halls and the classrooms when classes aren't running so that other students aren't there. They could build comfort interacting with classmates outside of the school building in extracurricular activities. And once they can do both those things, they can actually return to school. As always, I try to include at least one hierarchy item that is a scripting example, so the child could write a paragraph about how they're going to catch cooties from their classmates, and it's going to be horrible. The child could practice touching their classmates, perhaps in like a game of tag in gym class. Super, super, super duper important would be for parents and siblings and teachers to not give reassurance, because I can probably bet that the kid with OCD is going to be asking for reassurance. And until they're able to stop asking, they need to stop receiving reassurance, and that's on the other people to be responsible for doing. Okay, so we've got a list of potential items to go on a hierarchy. The next step would be to rearrange them in order from least distressing to most distressing, and then start at the sort of medium distressing ones to start habituating to them. Thank you for watching, and please join me for future videos.